Senior Trump administration officials were out in force today touting real results. Take a look.
Thank you for covering the economic boom. The boom in wages and labor and growth in jobs in manufacturing and construction, which the poison pens can't touch. That's what's being discussed around kitchen tables.
But it wasn't just Trump loyalists. Even the New York Times is praising the Trump economy. On Friday, its leading economic commentator wrote this. The headlines for the August job numbers released this morning are nothing but good. Employers added a robust 201,000 jobs. The unemployment rate remained at the rock-bottom level of 3.9%. And wages grew the fastest they have in 9 years. There's no doubt that this is the best economy in quite a long time for American workers, who, by a wide range of measures, can find a job more easily than they have in a decade. Well, maybe President Trump should tweet that out and just for once call it the sometimes gets it right New York Times. Dana, this story about the economy is obviously very good. But we're in the election season now, and I've got a theory that for the Republicans to just rely on the good news isn't enough, because people aren't grateful for what's happened, and the real challenge is to persuade them that if the Democrats win or do well, all this is at risk.
The results of the economy are so good. And it's really fun to be in news and have a chance to actually talk about people getting jobs and having this optimism. Like that's different, right? That feels good. And it's interesting to see that if you read a little deeper into that New York Times piece, there are basically saying there's dark clouds on the horizon. There's not enough people that are working. And there are concerns about the number of participants. But what has happened is that wages have started to go up because of that pressure. I think that the Republicans cannot rest on the good economy because in a midterm election, as it's been explained to me, sometimes you have to scare your base into voting. Right. So Democrats have done that, and Republicans are certainly doing that. If you look at President Trump's pitch, if Democrats take over, all of this goes away. All of these bad things are going to happen. One of the concerns for President Trump, and that's why I think he is out there on the campaign trail, is that in a presidential election, the economy definitely helps you. In a midterm election, the president elects the Congress. And with likability being what it is and Democratic energy being what it is, that's why the Republicans have to have a full court press.
I totally agree with that. Tessin, the Democrats, it feels to me, have, there's very little they can say about this economy because it's the kind of thing that every Democrat should welcome in terms of working Americans.
Well, that's why they're not saying anything about this economy because obviously it doesn't play well in their favor. What Democrats are focused on is all emotion, not economics, but focused on emotion like Dana was talking about. So where you have Republicans who are saying, let's scare people into, making sure that all this goes away, you have the Democrat side who is scaring people into what we see with the book, fear, and everything, is going to continue with this morale that's taking over the country, this big dark cloud. The problem is on the Democrat side is the Democrats don't get along. So a lot of the sweep under the rug between the left, all the way alt-left, which, by the way, I'm not a part of. I always have to make that just because I work for Sanders doesn't mean I'm a socialist.
Right. There's so many labels.
We need more like
I always got to put that out there.
But there's so many labels. There's alt-left and progressive and socialist. So I don't even get lost.
Yeah, I did a poll on my Twitter wanting to know, do you see progressives and Democrats as different? And people do. They see that as its own independent party. And people say, well, why did you work for Sanders if you're not a socialist? Well, because it needed to get broke up, which you'll talk about, about big banks and breaking up.
We are. Lots to talk about later. But, Charlie, what do you think? Is it going to work, this scary
Well, look,
Democratic
so people typically vote out of anger, not gratitude. But there is a lot to be thankful for, without a doubt. I mean, the president has improved the economy tremendously. The low taxes are working, the deregulation. What I got a kick out of in this last week is the surprise of Barack Obama coming back into the political conversation. So if you want to rev up the Republican base, he should talk every single day from now to the midterms, and I think you're going to see record turnout. Because it's a daily reminder, like, oh, wait, that's why I came out and voted. This kind of professorial, elitist, ivory tower preaching to middle of America. You should be thankful that, I was president, and now you're reaping the benefits. Well, no, the economy was going lackluster, mediocre at best. The president went through massive deregulation, massive tax cuts, was a cheerleader for America, not an apologist for America. And now you've seen the GDP rate higher than the unemployment rate for the first time in a century. None of that was achieved under President Obama. And so President Obama, it's really funny, he says, you need a magic wand to do all these sorts of things. President Trump has done it. But they can't have it both ways because he said, Trump gets elected, the economy is going to crash. Okay, that didn't happen. Therefore, under that argument, you have to assume all responsibility for whatever the economy happens, positive or negative. Therefore, there's no way you could possibly say he can't take credit for this economy, and it's 100% because of his optimism, the deregulation, the tax cuts, the pro-business environment, not to mention the trade deals that have liberated the international markets.
That factor of just the energy and the impact on business confidence when you have a clearly pro-enterprise administration in place. But Candace, every time the president talks about the economy, he quite rightly points out the great success in terms of African-American unemployment. That's a point that you reinforce the whole time in terms of where that community's interests lie. But is it making any headway?
It absolutely is making headway, and we saw that a couple of weeks ago in the Rasmussen poll that black support for Donald Trump has doubled. And let me tell you why that's significant. We have heard the left call everything, everyone, every story, every book racist. They've said the word racist so much it's actually lost its meaning. I don't know what's racist anymore. If my server at a restaurant gives you my coffee late, I'm like, is this racist? You know, because this is how much they are reinforcing the concept that everything is racist, and they're doing that because they're scared. Bringing back Barack Obama was a sign of fear. Make no mistake. They threw a Hail Mary and thought, okay, we're absolutely losing, especially on the heels of the showdown with Brett Kavanaugh's hearings. I mean, that was not good for them, and they knew retrospectively that it was not good for them. Maxine Waters, her constantly saying to attack people. That's not working well for them. Then you have Cory Booker saying, I am Spartacus. And, you know,
bizarre.
It was actually just bizarre, right? Right out theatrical. Yes. And it's not boding well. People are actually looking at that and going, I don't recognize that, because here's what you have to give Barack Obama credit for. Very few things, but here's one of them. He's a very good salesman. He was always calm. He always seemed that he was in control. That is not what the Democrat Party looks like right now. It's completely splintered. A very good point that you brought up. We're seeing progressives versus, you know, the traditional Democrats, and this disruptive sort of aggressive platform of socialism that's reappearing, and they're unseating Democrats, which is bizarre. So it's a very interesting time. I think right now they are under the impression that there is going to be a red wave, and that's why they're bringing back Barack Obama.
Well, I don't know. We've got to sort of leave it there, but I do think there's no grounds at all for complacency on the Republican side. And one thing I just want to emphasize is what Dana was saying. From that, we haven't got time, unfortunately, to discuss it, but that point you made about the potential constraints the economy's coming up against, and actually, to be fair, some of the work that the president's been doing and Ivanka's been doing on job training to get people into the workforce is really important, but that is for another night.